Our today's guest is Daniela Sulek. She is going to be talking about really awesome things. So it's going to be a trippy conversation, and I'm very excited about this. Daniela helps stressed leaders move into the state of joy and ease, and we are going to be talking about how this reality is something that could be seen from a different perspective in order for you to have more joy in your life and in your business. So welcome, Daniela.
Thank you, Eugenia. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. And why don't we start by kind of continue a conversation we a little bit started before we turn the record about how in this reality, what we think is real is not really real. And that this very ease and joy you're talking about comes from beyond perception of the mind.
Yes, the reality as we perceive it is literally a product of the mind. You can say that it's an illusion. You can say that it's mind projection, holographic projection, or the mind's imagination. But how I use it, I use example of a dream. So when you dream, you are in the dream, and there are also other characters in the dream, and there are also other objects in the dream, and you have emotions and you have thoughts and you make decisions, and something is going on. There is something kind of theme and action going on, and you don't know that you are dreaming, and it feels real. It feels like you are there and it's your life until the moment you wake up. The moment you wake up every morning, it's like, oh, okay, that was just a dream. And you don't go there, you don't go back, no matter how pressing the issue was, no matter what kind of a important project you had, no matter what was happening in the dream, there is nowhere to go. Where would you go? Where would you go to finish the dream so you don't fail, or something to prevent something bad happening, right? That's exactly what life is. But because the mind creates the separation and the illusion of the realness, we don't perceive it as a dream. We are literally the characters in the dream. But meanwhile, we are also the dreamer, but we don't know that it's our dream we are living. Everyone will eventually find out when we die. Then we will have a different perception of what life is and what the true reality is. What I'm helping my clients to realize is to shift them. I'm helping them to shift from the mind state, when the active mind creates this illusion, the perception of fixed reality and the realness, and life is hard and I need to stress, into a higher consciousness when they see it while they're alive, when they really perceive the reality as a movie, as a dream. And then if you know that it's an illusion, again, why would you stress about something that is not real? So it's a very different perception. It's a very different perception of life. You cannot use logic to get there. You need to shift consciousness.
Yeah, and it probably also helps to let go of control, right? Because when we want something or when we're afraid of something and we're trying to avoid it, we are in survival consciousness, which is all mind conditioning one way or another. And then from that place, we end up trying to control, right? So what you're talking about is the state of consciousness that's outside of the ego control, where you probably naturally would have more flow, right?
Not more flow. I would say everything is flow.
Okay.
Because everything is flow. Mm-hmm. The control stems from the mind, and it exists only on the level of the mind. And when we perceive this world as we are the person who is in control, the truth is that we do not control. We have no control over our thoughts, our actions, our emotions, and what happens. Life happens naturally and unfolds naturally in every moment. Humans do not have control over what happens. There is only choice of awareness of what happens. Mm-hmm. Just like the character in the dream doesn't have a control over what happens, because the one who dreams it has the control, is actually dreaming the dream. But when you really dream at night, you perceive it as you have a control, or you are making a decision in the sleep.
Yeah. Would you say that this is link to like what we're broadcasting? Like the way I teach it is that it's a resonance. So whatever energy you're putting out into the world is what you're essentially attracting. So if you're vibrating at the state that's sort of outside of dream, like what you're saying, then depending on your state, you naturally will just attract whatever it is that you need, right? That's why
Yes.
there is no lack
Yes.
from that perspective.
No, lack exists. Lack, fear, challenges exist only on the level of the mind. So the high consciousness it's not the mind. It's when the mind is passive. So there are no thoughts. There are no thoughts about the past. There are no thoughts about the future, because time is a perception of the mind, the perception the mind creates. So yeah, you're right. That lack doesn't exist.
Yeah, and so many entrepreneurs, especially women, tend to get very stressed with trying to make sure they get everything done, trying to get that feeling of inner lack filled up through some sort of a external action, like someday I will get there. And one of the things I always say is if you're striving to get there, that means you're not there. That means you're already in scarcity and not abundance. So can you speak a little bit to the typical stress that comes from overdoing that seem to be the thing to do in this reality when actually it isn't?
Yeah, and it again is there and exists because the mind creates an illusion that we actually do something, that actually my action creates. So the more I do, the more result I receive. That is not true. There is no cause and effect. Our consciousness creates. If we are conscious, or if we are unconscious of ourselves, then that means we literally function on a level of the mind. We recreate, or we shift into the reality where we recreate the same experiences of hard work and stress and money coming in but then coming out. And really we have to survive, we have to work, we have to do more, we have to strategize. When we are fully aware of ourselves in each moment, which means the mind is passive, there are no thoughts, there are no thinking, then we shift into the reality when we perceive how naturally everything flows and how our actions do not create. That's the truth. That's really the truth, which cannot be seen on the level of the mind.
Mm-hmm. So would you say then it's the resonance that creates, if not the actions?
You can say energy. Just people should be very careful, because then they want to increase their energy or increase their resonance with journaling or anything they are doing, and that's actually even doing. Our natural state is a high energy. Our natural state is all that is. We are the dreamer. So there is nowhere to go and nothing to do. We really just need to recognize it. We really just need to recognize the awareness.
Okay, so this makes sense as far as a lot of anxieties, fears, overwhelms, all of that goes away, right? As soon as you're in this state, right? So how does that state that you're talking about connects to desire? Like when somebody wants something, what if it's not out of lack? Like we're not talking about like when I have, I don't know, a certain number of clients, or when I have a relationship I want or whatever, then I'll be happy. So let's say it's not out of lack. Instead, it's actually I desire a relationship, or I desire a next level of my business. How does that fit into being the dreamer?
Any desire comes from the mind conditioning, and any desire is a survival, and a desire is either fear-based or survival-based. Because when you mention, okay, it may be not out of lack in terms of, well, I have enough money, but if you say I want to desire a relationship, then you are lacking love. So you have a separation, and you are living under an illusion that you need someone to give you the lack. You want to have love. So any desire comes from the mind. When you are in your natural state, there is no desire. You live in the truth, which is you live in the now. By definition, if I have any desire, I am not I am not happy with this moment, meaning I have no relationship, for example, and I want in my future have relationships. What is that? That's timeline. What is timeline? It's mind's concept. It's an illusion. So when the mind is actually passive and it stops the projection of the illusion and separation, there are no desires. You are actually fully fulfilled, feeling very peaceful every moment. No matter what happens in your life, you don't want to change it. And that actually creates more and more good things in your life. It's a paradox. But when you require nothing, when you desire nothing, when you want nothing, everything comes to you. But again, you cannot go there and you cannot get there through the mind. You have to be in that state.
That sounds like that will require a huge amount of trust for most people who are not aware of that other side. You know, like the side you're talking about is essentially, like in my world, we call it the other side of life, like what happens from outside of this illusion. So if somebody doesn't have access to that through their perception, that would require a huge amount of trust to believe that their needs would be taken care of, even if they are not doing the taking caring themselves.
Yeah, it does. Well, speaking of the trust is our natural state, because when you are all that, when you perceive yourself and when you recognize yourself and you know that you're all that is, and it's your creation, it's your holographic projection, it's no one else. No one else can change your world. No one. It's just you. And when you have that perception, you naturally trust because you're all that is. It's only when the mind is active and there is a separation, you don't trust, because now you perceive yourself as a human who needs to take care of themselves, who needs to work, who needs to make sure other people love them, who doesn't want to be abandoned, whatever stories we have, right? But all the beliefs that exist in the mind. And that's why we don't need to dig out the beliefs or change the beliefs or heal the beliefs. The mind needs to become still. And then we shift into the state of awareness, which is our natural state, and we trust. You don't think. In that state, there are no thoughts of not trusting. It's your natural state. Just like you wake up in the morning and you know that the sun will be out, you don't even think about, oh, is the sun out? Or do we have night and something bad happened? It's out of your reality. It's out of your perception. The trust is just there.
So that would be like living in Ma'at, in the higher truth, all the time.
Yes.
So can you say a little bit more then on, in your world, like the way you work with people, what does that look like in application to practical life? Say if somebody has a business, which means they doing marketing, they doing sales,
yes.
Delivering their offer to their clients, they showing up every day, and let's say they're trying to do so in a way where they're not in anxiety all the time, not overwork and stressed, but they still serving their community. How would this apply to in a practical sense?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And I asked because I could go in so many directions: the relationship, health, illnesses, entrepreneurship. So thank you for that clarification. Absolutely. So so you described the humaning, how I call it, the human experience, and when the mind becomes passive and you shift into the state of full awareness, you don't need to do marketing. You don't need to do a lot. I don't do marketing. I have very few followers. I just am my truth. So wherever I go, I actually work maybe 2 hours a week. I do not sit in front of my computer. I don't send emails. And my clients come from every possible kind of direction. Doesn't necessarily come from social media. I can go to for a walk and I start talking to someone, and that is a person who needs to connect with me. So that is a flow of life. because on the human level we have this, this is my personal, we have this structure and these boxes. This is my personal life, and now I have free time. It's Saturday and Sunday, and it's after work, and but this is my work time, right? And then I have vacation. Well, that's on the mind level, and that's very exhausted, because then you just work, and you have a little bit of free time. But when you're all that is, when you're in the full state of awareness, that disappears, because those boxes are created by the mind. It's a false concept of yourself. You just live. You just live. Like literally, you cook, you walk, you wake up, you talk to people, and miracles, but they are not miracles. Life sends you everything, every moment. So the mind thinks, because the concept of the mind and the concept and how everyone thinks in terms of humans is, well, if I do this action, I do marketing, I do this, then I have a result. But a few minutes ago, I said that there is no cause and effect. You don't create by results. You have an illusion that when you do a marketing, when you show up, when you talk to people, then the results come. But that's the illusion. That's just the movie. But in the truth, everything is unfolding for you. So when you are in that state of awareness, you know that every moment you are where you need to be. If you need to be talking to a person in a park, you are there. If you need to do something, you are there. And the abundance or the growth of your business and impact is happening by itself. Do you need to do something? Yeah, you need to take action. So, for example, I'm now speaking on your podcast and connecting to you, but I do not have a thought that my clients come from your audience. Absolutely not. Because I don't know where my clients will come from, but they come from all other sources. In the normal, I would say, conditioning is, well, I do this podcast because I want people to hear me, and then people will come to me. No, because that's an illusion. We don't create. Cause and effect doesn't exist. So this is a complete different perception of life. And that's why I call it effortless living, because you live, you don't work, you just live. And your business, you impact people by your being, and your business grows by itself, because you are exactly where you are each moment, where you need to be each moment.
Yeah, this is actually very similar to what I teach, just using very different words. This idea that if we trust ourselves and allow ourselves to be guided, we arrive at the right places at the right time without having to chase anything. It sort of comes to us, being attracted to us.
I just want to point out that you always are where you need to be, even if you receive something that you don't like. So meaning clients not coming, or a big bill, a large bill is coming. You always are there, because again, you don't control the happening. Life unfolds for you. You just cannot translate it, because you're in the mind. The mind is active. It creates the illusion. But that is exact moment where you need to be. So you don't need to actually shift somewhere to experience the flow of life. You are experiencing the flow of life. You are everyone is exactly where they need to be, because that unfolding happens to them. They are not in control of their life. They don't control their life.
That's interesting. And that's actually kind of what I was going to ask next, is a relationship of that to your idea of the bigger, whatever we call it, God, universe, source, oneness. How do you see that? Is that something from your perspective as a benevolent entity that's looking out for us, the souls, or is it something that's more of a neutral construct that just works on a low resonance, and it's neutral, so it doesn't have like good or bad experiences? It just any experience is based on your resonance, and it's us that's labeling them good or bad? Because this is the typical split, like either God or our soul or something bigger watching out for us, making sure that we're safe and okay, or that everything is essentially a neutral simulation and it's up to us to let go and just live in it.
Yeah, so the idea that there is a God, a universe, or energy kind of that looks at after us, that's a mind concept, because that is a perception of separation. I'm this human and there is a God or universe taking care of me. No, you are it. It's your holographic projection. You are it, but also you can take it one step further, that there is no difference between my consciousness and your consciousness. So even though I create my reality and you create your reality, and I cannot control your reality, whatever is happening is you are controlling it with your awareness or not awareness. At the same time, there is only one awareness. There is not your awareness and my awareness. So it's a kind of a bigger concept, but that cannot be split or cut. But that's what oneness means. And when the mind becomes passive, you see the oneness and you perceive the oneness. And that's why, for example, there is no competition. You never compete with anyone. You don't see anyone as a competition. Competition is a separation. It's an illusion the mind creates.
Yeah, so that would mean we all are God, or whatever this higher name is. We all are it, all that is. Yeah. And perception of each person creates its own holographic reality, so that my planet is different than your planet, even though we're living on the same.
Okay. Absolutely, you're right. So if we take that there is approximately 8 billion people on the planet, we have there is not one Earth. There is 8 billion Earths. There is literally 8 billion Earths, because there is each is a separate holographic projection, but at the same time it's only one.
Okay, this is very interesting, and it's kind of like it's weaving in a lot of pieces that my audience already knows because we've been talking about it, but at the same time it's sort of like bringing it from a very interesting perspective. And it's I like that in human design it's called passenger consciousness. When somebody is the ego is like you're observing yourself, like you're in a dream and you're watching the avatar within the game essentially, but you're not the game. So this is interesting to hear this other component from your perspective. One more question I have for you about seeing things from perspective of opportunity, as that this is something that is possibility or opportunity. We talk a lot here about, well, it's business, opportunities and possibilities. So how can you weave that into like the way you see reality and how you work with your clients?
You mean what's possible, or
like seeing things that come to us, not as like you were mentioning, let's say the negative thing, like it's not bad thing, it's an opportunity, or you just learned something from that, right? Like this is part of seeing everything as an opportunity instead of some sort of a something you have to survive or persevere through.
Okay, I understand now. Yeah, so everything that is happening in your life is supposed to be happening, because again, you are not control of what is happening. So everything that is happening in your life each moment actually points you towards yourself, to be aware. That is the only reason why everything happens, not for you to react, not for you to build your life. That building, that big impact you see, that money, that abundance, that love will happen naturally when you become more and more aware of yourself. So in that case, every moment is perfect. Every moment is perfect. We just don't see it.
In order to see the perfection of the moment, one's ego must die?
There is no ego, because there is only one. There is only one consciousness. And the consciousness
one must wake up from the dream?
Yes, because if we say that there is an ego or the mind that needs to die, or we need to kill the ego, everything stems from the one source, consciousness, everything physical, even what we label as ego, even though it's not physical, but we perceive it. If we perceive it as something that needs to go, it's impossible. And that's why you cannot control or stop thoughts or kill thoughts or anything, because even your negative thoughts, everything comes, even your ego is created by consciousness. It's there for you to get aware of yourself, to experience something, and through the experience you become aware of yourself. So really, it's when you shift, you perceive that there is only one, and that's why every moment is perfect. Because even the ego, what we call ego, is it's consciousness. It's perfect.
Yeah,
It's the dreamer.
and right, the dreamer. And this is like the way that I talk about it. I usually say that ego becomes transparent. So then we're able to observe the reality through all the transparencies. Essentially, you're dreaming the dream.
Absolutely. Like we can play with the words, but I think everything is correct. Everything is right. What I would say is what happens is that the illusion, the illusory self, which is ego, disappears. It dissolves, and one perceives that it never existed. While in the human mind, in the personalized state, when you perceive yourself as a person and separate person, with the thoughts, with the emotions, you don't perceive that. You think that is. But when you shift, that perception shifts. So literally the ego disappears, or you have a new perception that it never existed. You just were dreaming of it.
Oh, this is awesome. Well, thank you for making this transcending into higher consciousness practical and understandable. I think this is really useful for people to understand because it immediately dissolves all the troubles and anxieties and fears and pressures that we feel. Yeah. And instead of forcing ourselves into something we think we should be doing, we let go and become the higher us, whatever that label would be. I don't know.
I said we just are. And meaning we just are doesn't mean we do nothing, but we just are in whatever movements our body is taking us to, like whether I'm walking, whether playing with the kids, whether cooking, whether doing a podcast. I just am. I'm not doing anything. I just am.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Daniela, for being here. And how can people find you and if they want to understand more about your work?
The best way to go to my website, which is danielasulek.com, and they can connect with me through that.
Awesome. So danielasulek.com, that's the website, yes. And all the rest of the information is in the show notes. Go check her out. This is definitely very interesting, and it would be super helpful for you to understand and get support in that way. So thank you so much, Daniela, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.